This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution, and we are here once again. This is becoming a regular occurrence, Fred, with our good friend, winemaker Fred Loimer. And today we're going to be tasting through 4 of his recent released wines that we were actually going to be tasting on the day of the big Austrian virtual tasting. But I thought we'd be better waiting until a fruit or a flower day to taste them. I hope you don't mind that, Fred.
Oh, it's fine for me. And I'm curious enough to listen carefully what you think today to the wines, because I tasted them already on a root day.
Okay.
And now I have a chance to taste it on a fruit day.
Now, this is something I'm not so familiar with, this non-vintage wine. It's not your usual label, obviously, but tell us a little about this wine.
That's quite a new project of an old-fashioned wine, and
Yes.
The idea came up the last 2, 3, 4 years with all these, let's say, natural wine movement. So, today we do our wines in a quite untouched way, natural ways, and the difference between this as called as a natural wine to the classics, what we will get next, is today only sulfur management and not more. Sometimes filtering, but that's everything. And this is a wine now which is a blend of varieties. So, in 100 years ago, or maybe 70 years ago, people didn't care so much about varieties. Everything was more on the place, the appellation where the wine comes from, and they even care about vintages. Only the very best lots of a very good vintage get this rare information of the vintage. But the rest, so the basic wines, the wines for every day, these were blends of vintages, blend of varieties, blend of cask, and to get a kind of stable wine. And what's so interesting on that is it's not only the stability you get with this way of blending. You also get a little bit more deepness to the texture and to the aroma profile, because you have different vintages, different varieties, different ripeness, and so that creates quite a complex wine with really good deepness. And the most famous example for doing that over the centuries till now is Champagne, and so why we shouldn't do that on a still wine, and that's the idea.
Now, is this particular wine, I'll ask you to pronounce the name of it, because I don't want to absolutely slaughter it by trying to do it in my Scottish Canadian. But what do you call this wine now?
We call it Gluegglich.
Yes.
And it's a word creation of glue. So the French thing of easy drinking, quick drinking, and the sound when the wine comes out of the bottle, and glücklich, which is happy in German, and so these Glu and glücklich makes this glücklich in a different way of writing.
Now, how does this wine differ from the famed gemischte Stats, the wines that one will find around Vienna, for example?
Yeah, so gemischte Satz, as the very classic one, is a field blend. So that means the varieties are mixed in a vineyard, which is the old classic form of making a vineyard in the 19th, 18th, 17th century, where they didn't make craftings, and so they made selections in the vineyards and took the best shoots from the neighbor and made a new wine, and with that technique you get a big mixture of varieties in one plot, in one parcel. And that's the classic field blend, and that's the gemischter Satz. And the Gluegglich is a blend of varieties. So that means most of the wines which are used for that wine are harvested as single varietal wines.
Right. Yes.
But then blended, and but there are also some parts in of field blends, because we have a few vineyards in that old fashion. So with the mixed varieties, field blends, and parts of that wine is also coming out from that, because we do, beside this Gluegglich with different varieties, we do also a field blend on a natural wine. So it's called the gemischter Satz mit Achtung.
Oh yes, yeah.
Maybe you heard that, and so that's our classic field blend, but some parts of that wine goes into the Gluegglich.
And would you mind giving us a kind of approximate breakdown of what goes into this wine regarding varieties?
So it's a big mixture of Austrian varieties. There's in, of course, some Grüner Veltliner. There is in the Burgundy family, which has quite a long history in Austria. So Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay too, which is a newer history maybe. Then there is in Zierpfandler and Rotgipfler, which are two out-of-tone Austrian varieties, today only grown in Gumpolskirchen, where we also do some vineyards. It's south of Vienna, quite a different
I wasn't
place.
aware of there being any of those vines in Kamptal.
You can find, so I have a Riesling. There's Zierpfandler, I think by accident.
Yeah.
So there was in the long history, there was for sure also Zierpfandler and Rotgipfel in Kamptal, but very rare. Here in Kamptal there was more Roter Veltliner and Welsch Riesling in the past, which is also in that wine, in that Gluegglich. But today this Zierpfandler and this Rotgipfel, they are both quite sensitive varieties, and they're very well adapted to that place in Gumpolskirchen, so south of Vienna. And there they have still importance, and they make the Gumpolskirchen, they made their village wines out of these two varieties. And yeah, we have some vineyards there, and we use also a few parts to the Gluegglich wine. Because the idea is mostly Austrian varieties, and as it is labeled as a Landwein, which means it can't be a quality wine because of the style of that wine, it's possible to blend both places, so Langenlois and Gumpolskirchen.
Right, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's a fun wine, I have to say. I was just checking. It is a flower day today, and I immediately, when I put my nose in here, I did get some wonderful kind of orchard blossom aromatics going on as soon as I got my nose in there.
Yeah, there's a little trick in. There was always in the blends and in the field blends too some aromatic varieties like Muscadella.
Yeah.
And Traminer, which is quite old variety here also in that area. And there's a very little percentage of these two varieties in, which is lifting the aromatics and makes it, yeah, let's say, enjoyable to drink.
It's very much a kind of glug fun wine, but there is like a substantial mid palate on there as well. I think from that kind of that cepage that you have, that blend, it's really great little wine. So this has been available, which is really interesting, and I believe there's a second order on the way of this.
Yep, yeah, we got it 2 weeks ago or something like that, and
Great.
it should be on the way now. Yeah, it's interesting to see all over the world a kind of movement to these untouched naturals, which is in that case it's unfiltered, unfined, very low sulfur. We use a little bit of sulfur because I'm not, to be honest, a big fan of no sulfur.
Yeah.
I think sulfur was always something which was in the techniques and technologies of winemaking in all the centuries
Yeah.
past, and there's a reason, because you can get more safety, because I don't want to have too high a volatile and maybe some mouse tones or whatever. So we sulfur very little, also to get rid of the bacteria which might change the wine in the bottle, which I don't like. And but it's very low, and it's only one sulfuring in the whole process of winemaking.
Now,
And
is that just after fermentation, or is it just before bottling?
no, not really. So we try to stay as long as possible without sulfur. It depends a little bit on how we vinify the wine. So a few of these are pressed immediately as whole bunches. They need a little earlier sulfur,
Right.
and then we have in some lots of skin fermentation in the whites, and that's very interesting when you do whites on the skins, fermenting on the skins. There's no need for sulfur, maybe the whole lifetime, but in the blend there is a little bit, and also in the bottling of field blend, which is 100% from skin fermentation, we sulfur a little bit. Maybe I'm too old for these young experiences. I don't know, but yeah, I feel more safe, and I like it a little bit more.
I had just been writing a short piece, an educational piece about mousiness in wines, and about when I was studying wines. It was pretty rare that you got a wine with that kind of mousy taste to it, and I've seen it shoot up like that with the advent of people using less and less sulfur, something that used to be very niche and is now almost mainstream, using less sulfur. And At the Austrian tasting, when I was tasting through some of the wines, it's been a long time since I've had a mousy wine in my mouth, and you never forget that taste once it gets in there.
That's right.
And of course, I kept on forgetting that thing that you can't actually smell it. So it's like, oh no, oh no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no. Maybe I
and
should just
it,
give up taste. Yeah.
you know, I'm a big fan of untouched winemaking, so low intervention and
Yes.
all that. But I hate mouse tones, and
Yeah.
I hate too much volatile acidity. I love it when it helps to bring freshness to the wine. This also works, but when it's too much, it's too much.
Yeah.
And mouse tone is a no-go for me. It's not a nice flavor. I do not understand why I should drink that.
I
Um,
I've actually been in a wine bar in London, a natural wine bar, and I had the sommelier telling me that the mousiness was just part of the terroir, and I couldn't take him seriously after that. I won't name the wine bar. Now, moving on from